you. I
I have an
appreciate it.
alarm set at 8:10 every day. It'll let me
Dude,
know.
you are awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. But now I just did it. Thank you. So whoever's watching this, thanks Sean for telling me to record this. Let's see here. So the more money you have, the more money or the more customers you have, the more labor you're going to need, pretty much. So, just like front of the house and back of the house, I bet the people that were running the restaurants are at, when it was completely shut down, you probably had no wait staff, no front of the house people. Did you?
No. Well, actually, yeah,
No.
we had the servers come in and answer the phones for the to-go orders.
Oh, wow. Okay, good.
Most of them had already. It was weird because they had all pretty much signed up that they were unemployed and were receiving benefits from workman's or what is it?
Oh, yeah. I know what you're
So
talking
then
about.
they just come in and work a shift and make like 30-40 bucks in tips.
Oh,
And
nice.
it
All
worked out
right.
okay. But yeah,
That's good. That's good. Because if not, the wait staff has nowhere to go, right?
right.
Or nowhere to do. If they didn't do that, that was very cool of them. But just the staffing, how many customers you have determine what your staffing is, right? You just gotta, the more money you make, the more employees you can have, I guess is the, let's see. When you're talking about like just being shorthanded in a kitchen, how have you ever, did someone ever screw up the schedule so y'all were shorthanded? Anybody? Like I've had someone like not forecast or not know, like there was a big, I don't know, party downtown and they didn't schedule enough people and we got slammed and it just, being shorthanded really bogs you down, completely bogs you down. So making sure that you have a full staff or staffing. Um, let's see, labor, calculating labor. Hold on a sec. There we go. This one right here, it's one cook. Basically, for one cook can cook about for every 20 guests, so 2 cooks an hour. So basically, 1 cook hour allows you for 20 guests. Okay, 1 server hour. It's about 10 guests. That's about right. So because 1 cook can cook about in 1 hour about 20 guests. That's pretty.
I guess it depends.
Yeah. It kind of depends, but I would consider this on kind of the average. But it really kind of depends on how extensive your menu is, right? I mean, if your menu is a very heavy menu or a very extensive menu where it's got a lot of stuff that you have to, a lot of like tweezer work or whatever else, it can take a lot of, it can take more people. And
Doing just a scoop and slop.
yeah. I mean, let's talk about like, the French Laundry or something like that. I mean, 1 guest, I mean, there's going to be, 2 or 3 cooks per guest type of deal. But, that's on the average, but, it's a, and sorry, I'm kind of, you really don't, for me, you do not need to really worry about calculating, like actually we're not going to build a schedule. You do that in your other class. What's that? Not restaurant operate.
Entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship, right? Y'all made a schedule, correct?
Yeah. They walk you through. Basically, you build a restaurant, and it's just to like calculate labor costs.
Yeah.
Just go in and schedule a day in your restaurant. And
Yeah. So y'all have already done that. Pretty.
I don't know if these guys have. I did it last block, but I don't know who here's been to operations or
restaurant
entrepreneurship.
entrepreneurship
Yet.
Okay. All right. Well, you'll be learning how to do like making a schedule and all of that good stuff in that class. But scheduling, and I will show you some PowerPoints on how to schedule, but you're not going to need to make one in this class. Let's see, determine estimated number of guests. Okay, so determining how to schedule, you need an estimated number of guests, right? You need to, kind of figure out when the guests are going to be coming, right? And that kind of figures out the schedule. Now, what is your hours of operation, right? You need to know your hours of operation to schedule everybody. Everyone usually gets about 40 guests, or you usually get about 40 guests between us 3 and 4. So that means we need to staff up, a pretty good amount between 3 and 4 o'clock. And we talked about the chefs. Determining the wages, cook average wage. Well, this is basically, you're saying each, don't worry about any of that. That is, Chef Tammy made these slides, and and this was a lot of this was for the other class. So we're using this, I guess, as a dual slides.
This is a lot more in depth than what we went over. And
really,
yeah, this is actually really cool. Like this etiquette for schedules and the 20 guests per hour. So it's not bad. It's good information to have.
Yeah. Let's see. Accommodating days off. That's a difficult one. Has anybody ever, probably all of us have had a day off not happen because, it is what it is. The schedule didn't happen that way, but you try to accommodate for days off for people, or, scheduling days off, but it can be difficult because everybody, in what are some ways that people like at your work accommodate you for days off? Do they have like first come first serve type of deal? Whoever puts the name down, say whoever gets, is it seniority? Is it how is it to get days off, like our vacation?
My job, as far as requesting time off, at least it's seniority.
Seniority. There you go. How about, is that pretty much across the board, seniority?
The last place I worked, if you just put in 2 weeks, if you put in that you wanted a day off 2 weeks in advance, you'd get that day off. But if it's within 2 week period of time, there's no guarantees, because if it's within 2 weeks, that's 1 week from the schedule coming out for that week. And usually they come out 2 at a time, for 2 week periods. Yeah. So yeah, but that was pretty cool. I thought that was really neat that they would allow you to, if you needed a day off, it'd just have to be 2 weeks in advance. Otherwise, it's kind of a roll of the dice.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really awesome. And making sure that you don't schedule too many people off at the same time. That's kind of, excuse me, I apologize. I didn't sleep well last night, so sorry for
Me
yawning.
either.
Um, but just, making sure that you do not, have too many people off at the same time, and that can screw you over. But just figuring out a way, like Sean had his way at work, but figuring out a way to accommodate everybody without having to be, to deal with a bunch of bitching and moaning type of deal. Figuring out a good way for your employees to take time off, and to get the time off without, making it a big deal. That I know as an employee, whenever I was not managing or whatever else, and when I wanted a day off, and they could not accommodate, it really frustrates you, and oh, stop yawning. You made me yawn just hearing
Sorry.
you yawn. But accommodating days off, let's see what's scheduled, has posted. Once the schedule is posted, you need to make sure you honor everything, right? Once schedule is posted, everybody changes their lives to the schedule. I mean, for example, for me, I mean, I know about 2 weeks before, 2 to 3 weeks before the next 6 weeks, what I'm going to be teaching, and if it changes or if it's not honored or whatever else, or if I ask for days off and they didn't honor that, it's just, it's not that good. So make sure you honor everything. Make sure you put up the schedule. I would say at least have a schedule at least 2 weeks out. And that's kind of sometimes pushing it, but a lot of times you'll at least have 1 week out. But I would really like you to have your schedule posted at least 2 weeks out in advance, just to make sure
I'm sorry.
that's fine. That make sure that that everybody gets to see that schedule and it posted, because people do their lives with that. So you need to make sure you post it as early as possible. Let's see, it's not too late to ask for days off. Swap days. I know that this is something we do at our work right here, is we swap days. For example, if, I don't know, Chef Raff needs a day off or whatever else, someone will cover that day and then he'll cover their day or whatever else. But they just kind of swap days, move days around, any of that sort of stuff. But just making sure that, it's easily swapped. But just kind of, and when that happens, I always ask to change the name on the schedule, because all I know is the schedule. So I'm looking at the schedule, and if their name is not on it, they need to make sure they put it on, because I want to know who's responsible for that shift at all times. Let's see here. Approval. Yeah, you must have approval for the switching, or at least just kind of give the person the heads up of, unless your manager says, hey, I don't need the approval, just get someone to switch and just do it totally fine. But usually management wants some sort of approval when it comes to that.
Excuse me, Chef.
Yep.
I was gonna say, like, when I was waitressing and stuff, we would use like an app called Schedulefly, and if you couldn't work, you could give up your shift, and whoever would accept that shift, it would make the change for you. but you had to do it within a certain amount of time or something like that. And then it would go to the manager for approval, and that other person would have to accept the shift to make it finalized on the schedule.
There's
That's
another app called Homebase that does the exact same thing.
home base.
Homebase.
Cool. I'm gonna look at that.
The
Very
best one
cool.
I use is called When I Work, and it's like cloud-based, so it, like as you update it, it updates in real time and notifies everybody via email.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. I like that.
I
I'll have to look
honestly
at those.
like I really like Homebase because you can actually even like use the app to clock in and out on your personal phone. And they can check and verify, obviously with video surveillance and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
like I can even like go in and check like my earnings and it'll show me what I've made and what I'm scheduled to make for the week, which is amazing. That I know,
That's
I
awesome.
mean, it's pre-tax, of course, but I know pretty much the rough amount of what I'm going to be getting before I get it.
That's awesome. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I think Seven Shifts has that feature as well,
Yeah, they do.
which is pretty cool. I like Seven Shifts. So.
Yeah, I haven't
It-
used Schedule Fly in some years now, but a lot of those things do a lot now.
Hey guys, I'm gonna run. I need to run upstairs and turn off the air conditioner because it's freezing in here. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry.
Heard.
Oh my God, it's freezing. It was at 68 degrees. This condo, for some reason, has a default
That's what I
at,
regularly keep my
at
apartment setting at.
68 degrees, and I'm like freezing my ass off over here. All right. So let me make sure when I work, Schedule Fly and Homebase, are those all the ones that we were talking about?
Seven Shifts.
7 shifts. Thank you.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but like, so it shows how much I'm supposed to make each day that I have a shift and then how much I've made.
Oh, that's awesome.
So like, yeah, it's pretty in depth. So like,
That's
if
pretty
I
cool.
if I work like it schedules me for 3.5 hours, it's supposed to be 47, but then if I go over that, it shows how much more I make than that.
That's very cool.
hmm
All right. And that was which one was that one?
That's Homebase.
Homebase. Okay, cool. I love those. Thank y'all for sharing about that.
hmm
Let's see. Ooh. How did I? Can y'all hear me and see me? Okay.
hmm
All right. Let's see. Tipping. Tipped employee. What are tipped employees? Someone tell me what are tipped employees. Anybody?
Like servers.
Servers, yeah. Like, no kitchen staff. You very rarely, now there are, I have seen some restaurants that, will have a tip jar for them, kitchen staff or whatever else. But most of the time it is tipped employees. They work for less money. And they're usually servers. Our bartenders are bar backs. Who else would be a tipped? Anybody else? Bartenders, servers, maybe even And hell, if you're a concierge, could be a tipped
Sometimes
employee.
food runners get tipped out. You know what I'm saying? And food runners will get tipped out by the
Yep.
wait staff. And bussers sometimes get tipped out as well.
Yeah.
I've worked at places where they tip the cooks out before they.
Yeah, you know what, and I love that. You know, I mean, there sometimes I will, if I go to a restaurant and I really, you know, I sometimes will, you know, hopefully they give the money to the kitchen staff. I usually, you know, give some money and say, hey, can you drop this off to the kitchen staff, and you know, try to tip them at least something. You know, just because I always wanted to be tipped, so I think it's always nice to tip someone in the kitchen. But tipped employees, let's see. So like wait staff, they get paid, what was it, $2 and what's about right?
$2.13.
$2.13 an hour. So, you know, they do get the tips. Let's see. You still have to, you know, they still get their salary, $2.13 an hour, but they get their tips. And now, have you ever worked at a place where you have to pool your tips and then, you know, a tip pool?
I did. I worked at a restaurant back home in Florida.
Yeah, how was that? How was the tip pool? Was that
So they paid me $10 an hour, and then we pooled tips. So and the tips were dispersed twice a week, and the way they did that was whoever worked the most hours, that's who got, like, you got a bigger majority of the tips, and they broke it down that kind of way. So if you're very part-time, you only work like 1 day a week or whatever, then you weren't contributing as much to the tip jar, so you got less of it. But the tips were split between everybody in the restaurant, the kitchen, back of the house, the dishwashers, and the waitresses.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah, we took on bigger paychecks because we got paid more hourly.
Mm-hmm.
But so I mean, it kind of worked out. We have seasons in Florida, so during busy season, I mean, we banked regardless. And during the slow times when things kind of dried up over the summer or whatever, it was nice to have, you know, a bigger paycheck, even though we got less tip money.
That's awesome.
I feel like most people don't know how to properly tip anyone, and so I feel like if I have a restaurant, I don't know that I would want to only give them $2 something an hour, when in most countries they get rid of tips because people they don't know how to tip, and people don't even realize it either.
I kind of agree on people do not know how to tip. I mean, and maybe it took me a waiter a little bit, or you know, doing some stuff to realize that how difficult that job is, and how you know, and how you rely on all those tips, and when people don't tip you the right way, you know, it really hurts.
Also, like, unless you're serving really expensive food, if you're just working in a diner, you can't live off of that with the tips off of cheap meals. You just can't.
That is very true. That is so true.
I will say that depending on the type of server you are, I have made money everywhere. Now, a slow restaurant that just isn't getting traffic, you can't control that. But if I get a table, if I get enough tables, I'm gonna make money. I've had couples tip me like $400 on like a $60 tab because they had such a great, yeah, I've had that happen several times. I've had customers buy me cars. It's just depending on the type of person you are.
Wow, that's awesome. Where was that at? Like where you got the money, the $400?
So up here, when I first moved here, I started out waitressing at Saltgrass up here in Round Rock just to, you know, get something to do. And I mean, like at first it was kind of slow because they only give you like 2 or 3 tables to start with until you work your way up. And then they was like, as you proved yourself, they would rate you every so many weeks, like based off your sales, your returns, how many drinks you sold, and then they would rank you. So everybody comes in and you're kind of like a what they call a C weight, and then you move up to a B weight and then an A weight. The A's, you get the better sections, you get the better tables, stuff like that. You have more of a set schedule. So it would they kind of incentivize you to work harder by promoting you through as you're serving. But yeah, I mean, I've had lots of tables come in and I mean tip me way, way over. So I think it just depends on the type of service you give.
Yeah, and that is very true. That is very true. But I do agree with the who was it that said that people do not know how to tip?
Oh, Autumn.
Yes, thank you, Autumn. I agree that I feel like there are a lot of people that just do not know how to tip properly, and that is sad for the wait staff, totally. But the one thing that you don't see many now, like waiting as being a wait staff, is not always, especially now, is not what I would call a career, or not a career, but like you're not going to be doing that. That's a stepping stone, I would call it, like, because people are going to wait tables, but they're not a career wait staff. There is not a career wait staff anymore. It's usually you're doing it for extra money, or you're doing this to go to school or whatever else. There is not what I would call a quote unquote as many professional waiters or waitresses anymore. Has anyone ever been to a place where the waiter or waitress is a professional waiter? Like, for example, if you go to like New York or a few really nice restaurants where that's their career, they don't get paid by tips, they're paid salary, and it is you just very rarely see I would say people being waiters or waitresses as a true profession. Everybody's using that as a stepping stone type of deal, right? So you're not going to have as what I would call skilled waiters or waitresses anymore. So that has to do with the tips as well. You're not getting as good service and all of that. But I do really think that being a waiter or waitress, I mean, first of all, that's a hard job. You have to be, you got to be happy. You got to sell yourself, right? You got to totally sell yourself. Like he was saying, I mean, I think she sold herself, right? She was outgoing and all of that. That's one of the reasons why.
Hey, Chef, what are you saying?
Well, no, but not sell yourself, but you're selling you're making them feel special, right? So you're doing everything in your power, and in a lot of waiters and waitresses, they don't do that, right? And when you find a good waiter or waitress, sometimes like I'll go back to that restaurant just because of that, right? Because I feel like I'm getting taken care of, and I feel special and all of that, because the waiter or waitress knows me and they know what I want and all of that sort of stuff. So I think that's an important thing.
You know, I
Um,
will say training has a lot to do with that, and the other wait staff that work there. Because I worked in places that they were professionals. This is what they did. They depended on that money. I know servers that make more money than doctors and lawyers and stuff per hour, you know, when you're good, especially bartending. Man, you get on a good bar and I mean, you can make bank depending on where you are and what type of bar. Um, but the training, I was trained by really good people who put service first and that taught me tricks and tips to be efficient at work and stuff like that. You have some restaurants that'll just throw you in there and they don't care how you do. I mean, like Saltgrass, for one, they have really high standards for their servers. You have to train for 2 solid weeks before you even get on the floor. Like
wow.
you go through uniform checks. They're very strict about that, and they empower every person on the floor to check you. So the hostess can tell you that, hey, you missed something or you didn't do something right. Like they empower every person to be responsible for upholding their values at that restaurant. And it works. And if you don't work and if you're not a team player and you're not upholding to their rules, they don't keep you on the staff.
Really?
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
that's awesome.
yeah. And I worked at places like Grand Duca that they were always so short staffed. There was hardly any training. Everybody was so new that no one knew the real way they wanted stuff done because it had been lost. You know what I mean? So you go into places like that and it's complete chaos, you know, the Wild Wild West. Everybody's just doing their own thing. So I think it just depends on the establishment and the people that are there. You know, those long timers, they know the culture, they know the customers, and they can teach you that. And then it made me a better server, and I always made money.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Now she brought up a point of you know, just I don't caring, right? You know, caring about your job, you know, enjoying it, and I think if you know, whatever you do is if you put your heart and mind to it, you're going to be able to make it, right? You just gotta, you know, I think being a waiter or waitress is probably I think it's probably one of the toughest jobs because I could never do it very well. I was never a good waiter, totally. I would drop food. I was, you know, not very good at it. So I always respect a good waiter or waitress that can handle it, especially with all the attitudes people have, right? Dealing with you know, angry customers or you know, people that are just assholes.
Yeah, I mean, I work at a scrub shop and we deal with doctors, and I wouldn't even want to imagine having to be a waitress for them. I mean, some
yeah,
people are so picky. I had someone try to tell me that two shades of the same brand were different shades, different colors. I'm like, they're the same. And they're like, well, go ahead and order me different ones because they're not the same. And I'm like, okay, fine.
yeah. You know, I mean, for me, I've never been able to. I've never been able to be a wait staff. I don't know why. I just have a hard time with that. Let's see. Per person shift time, each person shift time. All right, now, hold on, hold on a second. Now, how about, let me see, I apologize. My computer just, I need to stop sharing and then I need to reshare. Sorry, guys, technical difficulty. Are guys, I might lose you. This is trying to force me to restart my computer. Hold on, I'm trying to not. Hold on. All right, I think I got it. It's where it won't restart my computer. My apologies. Someone want to share anything while I'm getting the PowerPoints back up? How's anybody going to work today?
Yeah, I'm going to work. I'm only working 4 days a week right now, but it's not too
Where
bad.
are you working on?
I work at a scrub shop behind Seton Main Hospital.
Oh, you know what? I think I've been there.
I have some hotel and chef uniforms too.
Yeah. I think I've been there. Yeah. All right. Sorry, guys. Let's see if that'll. Let me try to share this now.
I am going to work as well, but just later on.
Yeah. Where you work?
I work at Whataburger, the one that's up the street from school.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
Yeah.
That's always busy.
Yeah.
Is it now sharing with y'all? The screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Sorry, guys. Let me get back where I was. Now, how about people being on call? Has anybody ever had to be on call before? Well, if you are on call for, like, what does being on call mean? You have to kind of stay around the house or stay around wherever and make sure that, you know, if they need you, they will call you. You know, I've seen, you know, like, let's say doctors are on call, or even, you know, kitchen staff, let's say, are, you know, you can say, hey, well, we might have a big party, or you can take the day off, but you might be on call. If we need you, we'll call you up. You have to come up to work, or whatever. Has anybody ever been on call in the restaurant? Very rarely.
I have, but it was typically during, like, back home in Florida, like I said, we would have slow seasons. So
Yeah.
from, like, basically September to April, everybody, all of what we call snowbirds, everybody would come down to Florida.
Yeah.
And, you know, restaurants are just booming. You're on hours of waits and stuff like that. But after Easter, everybody kind of, or Labor Day, everybody kind of goes back home and things dry up. So you could literally have like 2 people in the restaurant and be fine because everybody's kind of gone.
Yeah.
And then that's when, you know, they would have us kind of on call, like, hey, you know, you can take the day off, but, you know, be within 30 minutes of the restaurant or something like that so you can be here. And then, you know, if they call you in, sometimes you get a free meal, or, you know what I'm saying, like,
Yep.
something. You know, I've had the owners, you know, throw me $100 just to come in, you know, help out, and then I could take off again. But that's the situations that I've been in.
No, I agree, but just making sure that, you know, if, you know, there might be a party, or there might be a busload of people that show up. Hey, I might want to, you know, you might be on call, or hey, take the day off. But or if let's say I send you home. Let's say I'm overstaffed the day, and let's say today it's raining outside, and I had scheduled you to work, and I had scheduled a few people, and it's raining. I don't have many people in the kitchen, so I'll send them home. But hey, if I need you, I'll call you. Just be on call, type of deal. You know, that happens occasionally. You know, not like all. I don't I didn't do it that often when I was managing. You know, I would say maybe like the sous chef, mostly for like, you know, salaried people, I would say, hey, I'm going to, you know, you'll be on call or whatever else. But I did not do much of hourly people on call as much as just salaried people. But that was me. Hire more than one manager. Yeah. You know, but that really kind of depends on your establishment, right? You know, I mean, what if your establishment, let's say it's you know, a smaller establishment, you might not need a more than one manager, but most of the time, you know, you need a AM manager, a PM manager, somebody to any time that we have customers at the restaurant or customers, you need a manager there. You need someone there. I feel like all the time, some sort of management being around, because when the cat's away, the mice will play eventually, type of deal. And you just need to, you know, and you need someone that has the responsibility to that, right? Or assistant manager. I would say even an assistant manager would be fine, but just having someone that can make decisions and that can be the decision maker, right? Someone there to make decisions if they have to, right? You know, if we need to shut down, we need to shut down. And a regular employee, you know, unless you give them the authority, you know, they're not going to make those decisions, because that's what the management's there for, right? So just making sure you have a manager there, and that can handle certain things, that can handle, you know, whatever it is. And if you don't have a manager, make sure you know, I would say, you know, make sure your employees know how either to be able to call you or to be able to manage certain aspects of it. And to be able to make those split decision, or those quick decisions, you know, I think is very important, because sometimes people don't want to make those big decisions. Anybody want to say anything about management? We good with that?
I think, like you said, like not necessarily a manager, but cross training and having standard procedures. So like spelling it out for people. If this happens, do this. If this happens, do that, or whatever. I think that's important as well. Just giving everybody enough knowledge and a plan, an action plan to kind of go by.
Yeah, you know, I have little like books or little notebooks of, okay, if this happens, here you go. Here's you know, some information on how to fix it or whatever else. But just having a plan, I think having a plan is very important, for sure.
The issue with some management styles is that if you're training someone, just train them the way the owner would want it. Don't have these, you know, these quick routes to do something that if the owner walks in, oh, don't do it when they're here, you know, because I have a manager that she'll do that. And so I was trained doing things two completely different ways versus just having one way.
And that right there is very difficult to deal with. You know, that's why training manuals are so important. And that's something that I can't stress enough. I love training manuals, training guides, whatever else, so where it is all, you know, the same. Everybody gets trained the same way. You don't have that, what I consider the telephone game of somebody says it this way and does it this way. You know, it's very important, to not have multiple ways of training, and making sure that whoever is doing the training understands that it is important to do it, to do it consistently every single time. But unfortunately, most of our training is like you go and you train at your station. Someone just basically cross trains you, and let's say you're getting cross trained by the person that is, I don't know, that just doesn't give a crap or whatever else, and they're going to give you the shortcuts here and there and all of that, and making sure that you have a good training manual. Okay, here, hey, did anybody ever get a training manual for a job at your job
Yeah.
right now?
Not at the job I'm at now.
Well,
We
no,
have
but like
binders
a
and
good.
I mean,
books to
there's
reference.
like training videos, there's like websites. I've been actually sent away to other locations to be trained. I've worked at places that certain people were qualified as trainers. So
Yeah.
if someone else showed you how to do something and it's not the way your trainer showed you, you're at fault for taking advice from someone else,
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think training manuals, training videos, any of that sort of stuff is important. But cross training, no matter what, guys, cross training is probably the one thing that if you don't get anything out of this class at all, out of this whole 6 weeks, the one thing I would say is make sure you cross train all your employees, because because it's easy as a manager, it's easy for me to then say, okay, Sean, you're going to go ahead, since let's say Sean's doing grill, or Sean, or I'm doing grill and I'm out, and I've trained Sean, and everybody knows everybody in this kitchen knows how to run the grill station. I think it's important for everybody to go to each station and actually run it, because if not, cross training, if I'm out, if Sean's out, whoever else, we want someone that knows how to do it, because we cannot call a temp agency in a kitchen. You can't call somebody, call a temp agent and say, hey, I need a cook for my 4-star, 4-diamond hotel restaurant, and you're going to work the dinner shift. That just doesn't happen. So making sure you cross-train everybody to make sure that, your staffing is good. If not, you're going to be short-staffed or whatever else, and that could really screw you over. But cross-training, I think, is the key to a successful restaurant. I really do agree. I really think that. Or a successful back of the house, for sure. Do y'all want to take 30 minutes, 20 minutes, what, 15? 15 minutes?
She said 20-minute break.
Yeah, 20. Y'all want 20 or 15? 20? 20? 20? All right, 20 minutes. 9:20. Is that good?
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. All right, guys, why don't y'all start heading back? All right, let's see. Come here. All right, so, oh, I'm not sharing. Let me share. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about. Let's see, we kind of talked about scheduling. Let's see. Okay, you know, sorry, my dog's eating my cord. All right, so when we are talking about overtime, so overtime is what is the percent of overtime? If you get overtime, it's what time?
1.5.
1.5 times. So, thank you. So 1.5 times. So, you know, that's something that is not like something that people, you know, as bosses, I don't like to give overtime that much. Why? Because that eats up my employee, basically the money, extra money I have floating around. So OT is only, the only time I have OT is when we have money, a lot of money coming in, because no matter what, I'm paying my employees time and a half, so a lot more money, and they are, I want to get a lot more work out of them. But that's, you typically want to, when you're scheduling employees, you want to schedule them about 30, 39 hours, 36 hours, somewhere in that area, because so where if they do work a little bit extra or they don't clock out in the right time, where they're not getting overtime, because overtime can really suck the money, suck you dry if you're the manager. And
But at that point, but at that point, they're not full-time employees, and then now they don't qualify for certain type of benefits and stuff like that, right?
If I schedule them 36 hours or a little bit under, no, they will still be considered full-time employees. It's just, I just know that at least I have a little leeway, a little give in between, they'll get their 40 hours,
Right.
but I usually schedule them a little bit less because of, there's always going to be, if you're not clocking. Yeah. I would much rather them stay another, 30 minutes extra to get their 40 hours instead of them, instead of me paying them OT for an hour or so. It just a little bit. So you always want to schedule a little bit less. So where not a little bit less. Not too much, like 36. I would say hours instead of like 40. So you'll have a couple of hours of just leeway that you can do, but it is done on the average. So like in a year's time. So if you're a part-time employee, you can get, let's say, more hours, but it's got to average out to a part-time employee for the whole year. Does that make sense? So you can, like 1 month, I could, if a part-time employee got more hours than they were supposed to, that's okay, because it will balance out. As long as I balance it out at the end of the year, or into the fiscal year, that would be fine. But you still just have to be very careful, because there's different classifications. You have a part-time 20, so they can only get about 20 hours, or 20 hours or less. You have all different kind of scenarios, but just making sure that you do not schedule all employees for straight up 40 hours. Because if you make it total of 40 hours, then if they go over, they're always going to be going in OT. But if I schedule them for 36 hours or 35 hours or whatever else, they're probably never going to hit OT, and that's kind of what I would like. Because again, OT is just a lot of money you're putting out to your employees. But OT is sometimes you have to have overtime. I mean, let's say ACL, or any of those things that are happening in Austin area. You're going to have a big truckload of people just showed up, or whatever else. You might need to do OT, but usually it has to be approved by a manager. I've never been in a job where that you don't have to get it approved. So you typically always have to get OT approved. Because what if my sales don't match overtime, I'm not making any money. So I've got to be very careful. Yes.
I worked at a company. Now, this was back home in Florida. I worked in a company that instead of paying overtime, they gave us what was called comp time. So for every hour I worked over, I could take that off, and it didn't come out of my vacation or sick time.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
That's pretty cool. I like that. And so how did it work?
So like, say, like you said, I wasn't waitressing. I was actually at a billing office I worked at.
Yeah.
But certain times of the year, like during our season, it would be a lot more work than what we could handle during our 40 hours. So for every hour, like I said, so if I worked 50 hours, I actually had 10 hours of comp time, that as long as I didn't use it within that busy time during our off season, I could take those hours that I accumulated off without it coming out of my, I still got paid for it without it coming out of my sick time or my vacation time.
I like that. Comp time, that's a great way of dealing with it.
Yeah, and there was no money, like, so we didn't make time and a half, but you know what I mean? Like, it was always nice to have those accumulated hours, especially when I had smaller children, and something comes up, I had those hours banked that it wouldn't affect my paycheck, and it was approved time off.
Yeah, no, that's great. I like that approach. Let's see, restaurant schedule software. Now, we were talking about software or programs. Y'all were talking about like the when I Schedulefly or any of those kinds of programs, but restaurant scheduling program, that was more for pay, right? Did y'all have schedules on there as well on those websites, like Homebase?
Yeah, Schedulefly. That's where all of our information was. We did our onboarding and everything through that.
Okay, so the restaurant scheduling software, I think that's very important, especially nowadays. People are not going to the restaurant and seeing their schedule posted on the wall. Maybe it is posted on the wall, but a lot of times now it will be sent to you, or you'll have it on that app or any of those things. I think that's really important. Like who was talking about like clocking in and clocking out on their phone this morning. I think that was really, doing that. That
Me.
I think is great because, it alleviates you having to get onto the POS system and clocking in and clocking out. But the downside to clocking in and clocking out on your own device is that, you could be, let's say, you could clock in and you might not be ready or whatever else, and you could be milking the clock a little bit. You could clock in early or whatever else.
If I always forget, and then it's like an hour later.
Oh,
And
yeah.
So I'm screwed. Yeah, I hated those things. I'm like, man, in the back of the house, you pretty much got a set schedule.
Yes.
If whether it's first shift, second shift, or you're gonna pull a double, and whatever my schedule is, man, that's what I'm gonna be there.
Yeah, no, and forgetting to clock in is a pain in the ass for like the manager, because then I got to go in and plug it in and all of that. But I think I think having your cell phone there and being able to clock in, I think that might make it easier. So you won't forget and you won't have it, but everything is at your fingertips. You can, like we were looking at, your pay is, you can see how much you're making right then and there. You can, real time, and that's kind of nice, or estimated. You have, access. You probably can put in your days off if you want to on there, I'm assuming. So I think all of that, the software, the scheduling software, I think is very.
Did you say you listed some of the recommended software earlier?
No, well, people were telling me some of the software. Was it Schedulefly? Another one was When I Work. Is that correct? I believe someone said When I Work is one of them. Homebase is another one, and then I think that was it. But I can plug it into the chat in a little bit.
Definitely a good start right there.
But here's schedule. Oh, here you go. Schedulefly, 7 shifts. These are some of them. Now, another, like, you have Paylocity or other things that you can use as well. But what's most important is making sure your employees have the schedule, they see the schedule, and honestly, having a phone with your schedule on it, having to be able to log in, I think very ideal, because everybody has their phone, right? You can see it, you can set it up, alerts or whatever else. I think having a schedule on your phone or a digital schedule is very important. One of the things that I actually have been liking about working online for the past couple of 6 weeks is that we at least get a digital copy of our schedule. Chef Robin was kind of stuck in the older days of just posting a schedule in the chef's walk-in or the chef's office or whatever else. It wasn't a digital. She would just stick a paper schedule in the chef's office, and if we wanted it, we had to take a picture or whatever else. So now she's gotten into the 21st century now, and at least sending us a digital schedule and at least have that a little bit more. And I think digital schedules are great, and especially if they're a schedule that is what I call a living schedule, where it's like kind of like on like Google, like Chromebook or whatever else, so where our Google Sheets, where it'll automatically update every single time we change it, and it updates to everybody, instead of having one schedule with a bunch of pen marks with everybody changing their schedule or whatever else. I think that that's really nice as well, to have a digital copy. Let's see. Let's see. Schedules. All right. Making sure you understanding the law of what overtime pay is. What are the required like ages? Age that you have to for working. They're like a meat slicer. I can't have a 16-year-old kid working a meat slicer. I think you have to be 18 to work the meat slicer, or there are certain laws that you have to go legally. What's the age that you can actually work? What is the legal age to work in the United States? Anybody?
In some places, I think as young as 14, and if they are your children, they can work a little bit younger. So my son is 11, and he helps me with my business, but it's and that is legal. But I can't have someone else's 11-year-old help me with my business.
That's correct. The child labor laws. We can't have a sweatshop or any of that sort of stuff. There are certain laws and certain requirements for scheduling employees, and that you can't you can't make them there's a certain amount of hours that you can schedule them, and age wise and all of that sort of stuff. So there are a bunch of laws that I would say. Just making sure that you're staying within, and if you're going over 40 hours, you have to pay them OT. There are some requirements that you've got to do. So just understanding some of the laws, and now with some of the payroll things they're not taking out federal. FICA anymore right now. So everybody's getting, extra money because they stopped taking out FICA and a few things because of COVID and all of that. So where everybody's getting a little bit more money in their paycheck because of that. So that there are different requirements, and I would always say just be vigilant about watching and making sure the payroll is done correctly, because it is not. Has anybody ever had their paycheck wrong? Anybody get a paycheck like they underpaid you, or they messed up your paycheck in some sort of way? It's personal. It hurts, right? If you're short on money and they don't pay you correctly, it's going to hurt you, right? You're not going to be a happy camper. So making sure that you understand the laws and understand making sure that the pay is correct, because no one likes to get their paycheck wrong. Let's see, work schedule for minors. That's right. Teenagers, so job requirement, people under the age of 18, you've got to make sure that there are certain guidelines you have to go by if people are underage. They can't be selling alcohol, they can't be touching alcohol, they can't they can't run certain equipment. So and the equipment is that's OSHA. OSHA is dealt with that. So you've just got to make sure that when you're dealing with minors, underage people, that is something you've got to be very careful with on the hours, because and I can't remember, and it's been a while since I've dealt with minor people. I think there are a certain amount of hours that they can only work. I think. Anybody know that? If minors have a certain amount of hours that they cannot go over, or is that just?
Yeah, no, that's a thing. There are set hours, especially during the weekdays. They can only work from certain hours. They can't be out late. There are
Yeah.
certain jobs that they can't do. Like I remember working at a grocery store and I couldn't be a cashier until I was at least 16 or something like that. And then I
Yeah.
could handle money. So there are a lot of restrictions as to what children
There's
can do.
also, since like minors have like an alleged curfew at 10 p.m. anyways, like they're not allowed to, at least in California, they're not allowed to work past 10 p.m.
Right. Yeah. On especially like on a school night. Like I remember on
Yeah.
school nights, I had to be done with work by like 9 o'clock or something like that. On the on the weekends, I could work a little bit longer, but like I don't think I was allowed to work more than like 8 hours a day or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there are some requirements that you just need to make sure you really are pay attention to, because if you get caught, working a minor, a certain, in certain equipment, I mean, that really is going to hurt your business a big time. So just follow those rules and regulations that for underage or minor people or kids. Well, they're not kids. Sorry. Let's see. Full time. All right. Set staff levels. And making sure that you have a good mix of part-time, full-time people, and making sure you have a good mix of that, I think is very important as well. Let's see, understanding the law, schedule, overtime, payroll, we did that. Privacy. All right. How about today? Hold on. Let me find. My apologies. Hold on. Let me stop sharing. Okay. All right. So what I want to find out, have y'all started who needs help with their project? Anybody having problems understanding the project or costing it out or any of that sort of stuff so far?
I kind of like, besides picking my menu items, I really don't know where to start.
Okay. So let me get on to the portal. And
I didn't recognize you in your picture, man. You look a little different.
I know.
After the quarantine.
Yeah.
A little scary.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I thought I was sharing. All right, let me get on to. Okay, so where is the bottom? Okay. All right, so here's the instructions for the project. So the project, you need total of 9 items. Now those 9 items do not have to be a starter. They don't have to be a main item. They don't have to be 3 desserts. What I want is total of 9 items. I don't care what it is, but you're going to create a menu with 9 items and you're going to cost them out. You need the layout of them. You need to create a menu. You need to, so this right here, this basically is kind of a rubric of what needs to get done. Okay, and then, hold on a second. And then for the costing sheets, now what you're going to need to do for the costing sheets, you're going to click here and make a copy. And this shows up, okay? Now, do you see down below, you have recipe 1, recipe 2. Well, sorry, and so recipe 3, and then you've got all the way down at the bottom, do you see where it says order guide? You're going to click on that, and here is all of the product that you would need to order, like for kiwis, puree kiwi. It's basically $4.27 a pound. So when you're costing out your recipes, you're going to type in, like, let's say this is a cookie, and I'll get you a filled out one, but let's say we're making cookies. So you put the recipe, chocolate chip cookies. If your recipe serving is if that recipe goes for 33 people or 33 servings, you can put that in there. And I would say we're going to leave the food cost at 30% right now. We can mess around with it later, but you're going to put the ingredients in here. Then you're going to put the amount right here, and it will cost it out for you. But coming up with a menu, a design, and let me see, go find an example of one real quick. I showed this one a couple of days ago, but I'll show this one again.
I think it was
Okay, so yeah, so this is their menu, or this is how they presented it to me in class last 6 weeks. So, excuse me. So this is their concept. Right here, here's the logo. They created this logo. Demographics, talked about the demographics of who they're going to be serving. Here's their menu right here. I mean, it's nothing too expensive, but they created a menu here, put the prices down, all of that. And then here is the costing. They gave me, so here's chicken breast, here's the cost, $2.04 for that chicken breast, and then kind of went down. That's how much it cost, $2.87 for the total cost. And then it's for one serving, and then the menu price for a 30% food cost, $9, almost $10. So that's how, and then here's a Philly cheesesteak one right here that they costed out. These guys did the schedule, but I didn't require it, but they had done that class already and they did a schedule. So they threw that in there, another class. And then that was it. That is a one project. Let me see if I can find. And you do not have a PowerPoint setting. You don't, if you don't want to. It was just this person did. Here's a Cajun place. Okay, so here's another project right here. Basically, the hours of operation, who your clientele is, any information that you want, how big your facility is, any of that good stuff, where it's at. Here's some pictures, make it look good. Here's gumbo, it costs $16. Jambalaya, $15. And going forward, they did it this way, but then they forwarded me their costing out sheets. They sent the costing out sheets separate. So this was their project, and then they sent their costing out sheets separately to me. But does that help you out with what the project should look like?
Yeah, it does.
All right, and I can send you some copies, or I can post a few of these projects on the portal, or try to let y'all be able to look at it whenever I'm not, we're not in class.
Yeah, see, that'd be like super helpful, because I think that's like what I had, like what I'm dreading the most is filling out those price sheets, because I get lost in that stuff super easy.
Gotcha. And what we can do also is when you're filling out the price sheets, you can always share the document with me, and you can just say, hey chef, can you check it for me, or whatever else, or we can do it separately, and but yeah, for sure, I will help you out with those costing out sheets. Okay. And we haven't really gone over costing a recipe that much. Did Chef Miguel go over that? Did Chef Miguel? Okay.
A little bit, but
okay. Well, I will help you out as well. But what my goal for you to have is. Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes. This is like kind of a trip, actually, because there's two boxes of seeing.
All right. I didn't realize I was still sharing.
Twilight Zone.
But what I can do, let me stop sharing. So what I can do is I will post some of that on the portal so everybody can kind of see it. But I will walk you through it, no problem. But what I would like you to do is maybe create a menu, just get your ingredients or get your items that you would like to on your menu. You can come up with a concept, come up with everything. You can do everything except costing it out for right now, and then I will go over costing out the recipes with you if you need help individually. Would that help y'all?
Definitely.
Cool, of course. All right, guys, y'all have a great day. I will post the stuff on the portal this afternoon. I'm gonna wait a little bit because my wife is now getting on her computer and she's got a meeting, so we've got to go between meetings because our internet here is not that good. So I will post it later on this afternoon. All right. Y'all have a great day, guys. Be safe.
Thanks, Chef.
Bye-bye.